I'm Denise, a 73-year-old female, and I just divorced my husband Darius, 74-year-old male, after 47 years of marriage. The man lost the house my great-great-grandfather built, over a $900 tax bill, and that's not even the worst thing he did. You ever look at someone and realize you spent your whole damn life giving them the benefit of the doubt when you should have been giving them the boot? That was me. The realization came late, I admit. Took me until my 70s, but I got there. I've always been a smart woman, and I say that without ego. I was a real estate agent for 40 years. Served in the Air Force Reserve too. Tech-savvy, financially literate, and nobody's fool. But I spent almost 5 decades married to a man who treated me like an ATM with a good body and a sharp mind, and I didn't fully catch on until the house disappeared. Literally disappeared. Let's rewind. I met Darius in the spring of 1978 at a networking mixer in Detroit. He was 27, newly divorced, tall, smooth, smelled like Old Spice and ambition. I was 26, also divorced, grinding my way through early success as a real estate agent. I had my own house in Ypsilanti, decent savings, a sharp wardrobe, and a cherry red Buick that turned heads in every Meijer parking lot. Darius worked in furniture sales, had one of those personalities where he could sell water to a fish and convince you it needed a glass too. He was charming, funny, never met a stranger, and full of compliments that felt handwritten just for me. Within 6 months, we were serious. By month 10, we were engaged. We moved into my family's farmhouse. It had been passed down from my mother, and her mother before that, just outside Ann Arbor. Beautiful wraparound porch, those thick Michigan walls that groan in the winter like they've been there too long. I renovated every room over the years, modernizing it with care. The bones of that place held stories older than any of us. Darius talked a lot about how lucky he was. I married up, he'd say at cookouts, acting like the house just came with the ring. At first I laughed it off. It felt sweet, humble. In hindsight, it was the first clue. He never really planned to build anything with me. He just found something that worked and moved in. We had our first daughter when I was 29, our second when I was 36, and our son, well, he came as a surprise when I was 47, but he kept me in shape. Chasing after him kept me looking young and fit. I was proud of my kids, and I wanted them to be proud of me. They're the only reason I survived Darius as long as I did. Now, to be clear, I kept our finances separate. Always. No joint accounts. I paid my bills, managed my money, and never let him have control over my assets. He always said it made him feel left out or less of a man, but I told him respect has to be earned, not defaulted. Still, we used the same bank, and that's how he got in. Turns out, when you're married, some banks will let your spouse set your checking account as overdraft protection for theirs, even without your permission. I didn't learn that until much later. Darius had racked up thousands in overdraft fees, each one draining from my account like a leaky faucet I couldn't see. He also started businesses, plural, using my name on paperwork I never signed. Whenever I asked him about the weird withdrawals, he said he was just moving things around for the business. Always the business. When that excuse got old, he'd say he was dealing with a lawsuit and needed to pay lawyers. He made it all sound very important, very above my pay grade. Which is rich, considering I was the one earning all the money. I didn't question it hard enough. That's on me. I was working full-time, managing the house, raising 3 kids, handling military duty, and doing everything short of raising his blood pressure. I trusted him. He was my husband. And when someone spends years spoon-feeding you just enough affection and just enough confusion, it's easy to lose your grip on what's real. We looked good from the outside, hosted Thanksgiving every year, paid for relatives' emergencies, helped our girls with college, and let our son stay with us through his trade school years. Everyone thought we were the gold standard. Big house, nice yard, matching cars in the driveway. Nobody knew we couldn't afford it, because Darius kept borrowing. Every time we had a holiday to impress people or a family member to save, he'd find some new loan. He was slick, used my name on things without me ever knowing, had copies of my signature scanned into his computer. He even used old utility bills with my name on them to open lines of credit. I knew something was off for years. I'd find statements in places they shouldn't be. Wedged behind books on his shelf, stuffed under the bathroom sink, hidden in cereal boxes. I'd ask him about them, and he'd call me paranoid. "Why are you always looking for reasons to fight?" he'd say. Looking back, I wasn't looking for reasons. I was finding evidence. And then came the day that broke me. It started with a knock on the door, Some young guy in khakis from the county clerk's office, holding a manila envelope and a clipboard. "Mrs. Daniels?" he asked. "That's me," I said, still in my robe with a cup of tea in my hand. He handed me the envelope, said something about back taxes. I opened it and saw the words tax lien and auction date. I blinked 3 times, thinking it had to be a scam. Then I saw the address. My house, we owed $900 in unpaid property taxes, which I thought were on auto pay. Turns out Darius had canceled it 2 years prior. Said he needed to reallocate funds. Didn't tell me, never mentioned it. Just let the bill sit, then snowball, then get sold to the county for auction. I confronted him right there in the kitchen. He acted surprised, like it was all a misunderstanding. "Don't worry, baby, I'll fix it," he said, putting on his best "I got this" voice. But I didn't believe him anymore, and what I didn't know, what truly saved me, is that my youngest daughter already knew. She'd found the tax notice in a pile of mail during a visit, and instead of telling me, because she knew he'd spin it, she went to the auction herself, stood in line, asked loud questions about foundation issues and flood zones to scare off other bidders, and when the gavel dropped, she bought the house. Paid nearly $9,000 to do it, out of her own damn savings. Then she waited. Let us move into a rental like nothing was wrong. Waited until I left him, finally, before she told me what she'd done. And when I left, she sat me down, gave me tea, and handed me a binder. She handed me this red binder, thick as a dictionary and just as intimidating. I opened it thinking it might be documents from the auction, maybe a receipt or something. But what I found inside was my whole life, in detail, except this version had been hijacked. There were copies of bank statements I had never seen, credit reports with lines of credit I didn't open, scans of business licenses with my name typed cleanly beside Darius's, loan applications, emails he'd sent to lenders, signed documents, only they weren't my signature. He had traced my name like a child mimicking cursive for the first time, just good enough to fool someone behind a desk. "Mom," my daughter said, sitting across from me in her living room, "he's been doing this for years." I had to get a lawyer just to understand how bad it was. I stared at her, stunned. My mouth wouldn't close. She flipped to a section labeled Accounts. Each tab had its own horror show. I wasn't just the co-signer on 1 or 2 small loans. No, this man, the man I'd shared a bed with for 47 years, had dragged my name through every financial sewer he could find. The total? $1.72 million. Read that again. $1,720,000 in loans, lines of credit, collections, and pending lawsuits. Some personal, some business, some with both of our names attached, but the debt trail clearly showed where it all went. And none of it was toward groceries, tuition, or fixing the squeaky stair in our old house. He spent it on lawyer retainers for lawsuits he caused, on failed online dropshipping businesses, on investments in crypto scams, on hotel rooms and dinners and gifts for women who were not me. I found one invoice for a flight to Vegas and a hotel suite I'm pretty sure I saw once on an episode of Real Housewives. He used my good name like a stolen credit card, then had the nerve to sleep beside me like nothing was happening. My daughter had spent 6 months unraveling it all. She'd hired a private investigator after finding some shady envelopes in his truck. The PI found fake P.O. boxes, burner phones, even a second email address where he'd rerouted bank communications. He'd been hiding his tracks like it was a damn spy movie, and I'd been sitting on the couch next to him, watching Jeopardy like a fool. "I didn't tell you earlier," she said, gently, "because I knew if I did, you'd give him the benefit of the doubt." She wasn't wrong. I'd done it 1,000 times. Every red flag he ever threw, I'd embroidered into a quilt and wrapped myself in it. Because when you spend that much time with someone, build a life, raise kids, pay bills, it gets hard to separate the person from the prison they've made for you. I sat there flipping through each page, and the only thing I could think to say was, how the hell did he manage to hide all of this? And she, without blinking, said, "Because you were too busy surviving for everyone else." That hit me like a slap. Because it was true. I had carried everyone, not just Darius, but our kids when they were younger, our cousins when they had emergencies, our friends when they needed a place to crash or a loan to cover rent. I was the steady one, the responsible one, and he used that against me, because if you're the one who always handles it, no one ever thinks to question what's being handled behind your back. But my daughter, she questioned everything. She had copies of everything. She'd already been to a financial abuse lawyer, a CPA, and 2 debt recovery specialists. They were ready to help me file reports, secure my identity, and protect what little I had left. Because, despite it all, my retirement and pension were still safe. I'd done that part right, kept them off limits. And she had found a way to keep the house. Our house. My name isn't even on the deed, I whispered. She smiled. It is now. I cried so hard that night I gave myself a nosebleed. Not because of the loss, but because of the clarity. That someone saw me, that someone saved me, that it wasn't too late to stop being fooled. The next day, I filed for divorce. I froze my credit. I opened a new bank account. I filed reports with the IRS and the FTC. My daughter had a lawyer draw up paperwork to reverse power of attorney clauses I didn't even know Darius had written into our taxes. She found evidence he tried to open a line of credit using my military pension info. If I hadn't gotten out when I did, he might have gone after my Social Security next. Darius didn't take it well. He tried to win me back with the same recycled charm he used in 1978. Called me up leaving voicemails like, "Don't do this. You know we've been through too much." No apology, just desperation. Then came the threats. He showed up outside our daughter's house one night, holding flowers like this was a Hallmark movie instead of a legal nightmare. She called the cops. They told him to leave. He called her a traitor. He went quiet after the restraining order was issued. I don't know where he lives now. Don't care, as long as it's not here. People ask me if I'm angry. Of course I am. I'm livid, but mostly I feel grief. Grief for the years I lost, for the energy I spent explaining away things I should have screamed about. Grief for the woman I used to be. The one who deserved a real partner, not a walking, talking Ponzi scheme in loafers. But grief fades, and what's left is freedom. I go to therapy now, weekly. I joined a local group for women over 60 who've survived financial abuse. I tell my story to anyone who will listen, especially young women starting out with dollar signs in their eyes and charming men in their DMs. I tell them, you can be brilliant and still be blindsided. You can be savvy and still be scammed. Love doesn't protect you from harm. Sometimes it's the thing that blinds you to it. Today, I live back in the farmhouse. My farmhouse. The taxes are current. The windows are clean. The porch swing still creaks, but now it sounds like relief. I keep a little plaque by the front door. My daughter gave it to me. It says, "You didn't fall, you were pushed, and you got back up anyway." I've started growing tomatoes in the back garden. Bought a bike for the first time since the 90s. I read crime novels and pay every bill with joy, because every one of them has my name on it and no one else's. If you've ever found yourself in a relationship where things don't quite add up, where money goes missing and the answers never feel right, please, please dig deeper. You are not crazy. You are not stupid. And you are not alone. And if you're someone who thinks 73 is too late to start over, come visit. I'll make you tea, show you my binder. And then I'll walk you around my house and say, this right here, I saved this, and myself. I never thought I'd be 73 and finally figuring out what peace feels like. Real peace, I mean. Not that fake kind where you convince yourself things are fine because no one's yelling and the lights are still on. I'm talking about the kind where you can sit on your porch in silence, drink a cup of tea, and not have your stomach turn every time the mail truck drives by because you're scared there's another surprise bill, another debt collector, another lie folded into an envelope with your name on it. The funny part is, I never saw myself as a victim. Still don't, really. The word always felt too passive, too fragile. I was managing for 47 years. I made things work. I fixed what I could and patched over what I couldn't. But managing isn't the same as thriving, and surviving someone isn't the same as living with them. After the dust settled, after the lawyers, the restraining orders, the credit freezes and affidavits, I started seeing the world differently. My memory changed. Moments I used to write off as just how he has started replaying in my mind with sharper edges. The time I found out he borrowed $15,000 from a cousin in Toledo for a business opportunity and used my name on the paperwork. The time I caught him emailing a woman named Sherry and he swore it was just for networking. The time he blew up at me for questioning a $2,400 charge labeled executive suite and I backed down because we had company over and I didn't want to cause a scene. These little cuts, they pile up. You don't even realize how deep they've gone until someone finally stops the bleeding. And let me tell you, my daughter didn't just stop the bleeding. She stitched me up and taught me how to fight back. She's the reason I'm even standing. That girl, that beautiful, stubborn force of nature, sat with me every step of the way. When I finally cracked and cried, she let me. When I got embarrassed about not knowing the full scope, she reminded me that manipulation is designed to blind you, not expose you. When I said I didn't know how to be alone after almost 50 years of being someone's wife, she looked me dead in the eye and said, "You've always been more than someone's wife." It's wild. I raised her, fed her, taught her how to tie her shoes, and she turned around and saved my life. I think about that a lot these days. How the very people we think we need to protect end up becoming our protection when we need it most. You know what else surprises me? I like being alone. Not lonely, just alone. I go to sleep when I want. Eat cereal for dinner if I feel like it. Don't have to ask anyone if they paid the water bill or why the car insurance bounced. I even bought a little fire pit for the backyard. Sit out there some nights with a glass of wine and my Bluetooth speaker, blasting Anita Baker until the raccoons scatter. The neighbors probably think I've lost my mind, and they'd be right. I lost the part that believed I wasn't allowed to take up space unless someone approved of it. I got it back, though, and it's staying put. There's a folder in my house labeled Life After Darius. My daughter insisted on it. It has copies of everything: new banking details, retirement paperwork, a handwritten list of all the ways he screwed me over, she said. It's for legal morale, whatever that means. And even a little note she tucked inside: "You are the house, Mom. He just lived in it." That made me cry harder than the tax lien ever did. Because she's right. I was always the one who made this house a home. Cleaned it, decorated it, hosted in it, paid for it, fought for it. He just stood in the photos and smiled like he built the damn thing. I think he believed his own lie, too. Haven't heard from him in a while. Last I know, he tried to move down to Indiana to restart his life, which is code for find someone new to fool. I hope he finds peace, truly. But I also hope no one else lets him near a bank, a woman, or a contract. Sometimes I wonder what my life might have looked like if I had left earlier. If I'd believed my gut in my 30s. If I'd walked after the first fake loan, or the second, or the third. But that's a dangerous road to walk. Regret has a way of swallowing up all the new joy if you let it. So I don't go down that road. I take a new one. One where I talk to other women about what happened. I tell them, you can have your name on everything. Be the one with the income, the title, the passwords, and still be financially abused. It doesn't always look like someone stealing your wallet. Sometimes it's someone forging your signature, linking your account behind your back, convincing you it's normal when the lights get shut off because the business had a bad month. It's someone making you feel guilty for asking about your own money. If you're in that kind of situation, I want you to know, it's not your fault. You're not weak. You're not stupid. You're not too old to start over. You're just someone who loved someone who didn't love you back the right way. And if I can get out at 73, with my name and my house and my dignity still intact, so can you. These days, I get up early, drink my coffee slow, and read thrillers on my Kindle like I'm studying to become a detective. I finally figured out how to connect my smartwatch to my phone. I walk 3 miles every morning. My doctor says I'm in better shape than I was at 58. You know what else I did? I opened a savings account called Petty Fun. It's just a little something I add to each week. I don't know what I'll use it for. Maybe a cruise, maybe a tattoo. Maybe I'll buy a billboard one day and write, "Darius, I'm thriving, and you're blocked." Because honestly, that's the energy I'm taking with me into the rest of my life.